Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Global Office Hours. I'm Alex Tassetti. I'm a software engineer here at VTEX, working in developer advocacy, and I'm going to be your host today. We have a jam-packed schedule today, so let's get going. So as usual, we start with announcements, which is a section where we bring updates since last time we were here. So first up, we have George, who's going to share an update about the marketplace protocol documentation.
Hey, Alex, nice to be here. I have this super YouTuber setup here to have a nice voice for you guys.
Yes, I am jealous, I have to say.
Hopefully the sound is going through a little bit better. So this update is about marketplace protocol documentation. Marketplace protocol is what we use when we want to connect VTEX to other stores that aren't built on VTEX. So for instance, if you are using VTEX as a marketplace and you want to connect external sellers, or if you're a seller and you want to connect to marketplaces outside of VTEX that don't have a native integration, that's the way to go. And in our marketplace protocol documentation, we added 16 new articles that go through the whole process of integrating orders, catalog, and creating an integration app. So now we give more guidance on how you could do that through VTEX IO apps, which is awesome. And there's a bunch of other things for more details about the external seller steps and more API endpoints that are being documented, all of that to make this integration process more seamless. That's what I have for today.
Cool stuff. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for sharing. And I guess we'll catch you later in the session today.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Next up, we have Karen, who's going to talk about the. So he's going to talk. Next up, we have Karen, who's going to give us an update on the search resolver API response.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone. So we updated the search resolver 0 version API response for security and privacy reasons. Before this update, as you can see in my screen, George. Yes, as you can see on my screen, before this update, the available quantity attribute, it returned the exact amount of products you have in your stock, and this information was public for anyone who can access this API. So to make this data, the sensitive data more private, now this attribute only returns null every time you make a request. We have an announcement on as well with further information for some customers and stores that uses this information as the running out of stock feature. For example, we recommended to contact our support so we can make this information available on the store, but you must remember that this information will be public if you choose so. That's it.
Good stuff. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, that's a good. Sorry, George was too quick taking you off. Yeah, that was a good update, I guess. So if people want to keep using that, they should get in touch with support, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, good heads up. All right, thanks for the update, Karen. Next up, we have Henrique, who's going to talk about the new payment app documentation. Welcome, Henrique.
Oh, hi, Alex. Hello, everyone. So we published a new documentation about payment app. The payment app is a feature that's a VTEX IO app. So as you can see here on the screen, it shows up in the checkout in this screen when you want to make a purchase. So this gives flexibility to the developers of payment integrations to choose whatever they want to show in this modal window. And this is one of our 3 types of purchase flows. We have like the transparent one that you can just choose a payment method, click on the buy button, and it's just finished, a redirect. that it opens a new window and you have to perform all the actions in this other window, so it's not so seamless. And we also have the payment app where it shows in the same window of the checkout, and then developers can customize the payment experience for their payment integrations. So the main scenarios of usage for the payment app is that you can make the whole payment experience inside the payment app, and the other scenario is that you can include the verification step for the payment. For instance, you can use an authentication with 3DS 2.0. So you, for example, are making a credit card purchase, and you have to make an authentication to approve the purchase, and you can use payment app to make this verification and then conclude the purchase. For more details, we have our guide here that you can check there. And later today, I will make a demo to talk more about it.
Good stuff. All right, thanks for the update. I think you're still with us for the next one, which is about the secure proxy.
Oh yes, there's a second announcement that is another documentation that we released, that's the secure proxy. So it's an alternative option for card payment integration. So if you are making integrations with credit, debit, or co-branded cards as payment method, without a secure proxy, you would need to host your provider in an environment that is PCI DSS certified. And those requirements, those security requirements are important because when you are transacting with, you are making transactions with cards, you are making transactions which include sensitive data. And those requirements ensure that all the data is transferred in secure environments. So there are integrations where the provider is not hosted on a PCI certified environment. So we have now this other solution that is the secure proxy. And then there are some changes in the flow and how the payment provider is implemented. So the main changes here are that when the gateway makes the call to the provider, there is some data, the sensitive data, that will not be sent to the payment provider. What will happen is that the sensitive data will be replaced by tokens that refers to this sensitive data. So the data will be tokenized, and then the API call will be made to the provider. And the other change is that the payment provider will not talk directly with the acquirer. It will use the secure proxy to make a call to the gateway through the proxy and send back all the information that is needed for them to the gateway make this final call to the acquirer. So in this step 3, where it sends the data to finish the transaction, it will include the tokens that he received that refers to the sensitive data. And in this the last step, the sensitive data will be replaced, the tokens will be replaced back, and the sensitive data will be sent in the final call to the acquirer and then finish the transaction. And you can read more about it in our secure proxy article.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's very interesting. I like the approach to allow you to maintain the sensitive data within the PCI environment, and then still allow integrations with providers that are not fulfilling that need. All right. Well, thanks a lot for your update, or for both of your updates, Henrique, and we'll keep on with the agenda there. Thanks very much.
Nice. Thank you.
All right. Well, these ones and all the other changes that have happened in the last few weeks are available in the change log. So make sure to check that out if you want to know everything that's changed. Cool. Next up, we have the Ask the Community section. Actually, this month, we are going to skip this one because we have a lot of demos for you today. So in the last two events, we didn't have any. So to compensate, to make up for it, we have 3 today. So I think we're going to go straight to the demos. But if you want to have your questions featured in here in this space, make sure to add the office hours tag to your question in the VTEX community, and then we'll make sure to have a look at it, and then we might answer it live here, and then give a lot more context to the answer. So make sure to add that tag if that's something you want. All right, on to demos now. I'm excited about that. Well, it's been a while without demos, so let's get going. First up, we have Lucas and Wender with the Checkout UI custom demo. Lucas and Wender, are you with us?
Hi guys, right here.
Hey guys, I'm here.
Cool, welcome. Well, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I will first start, and I'm gonna explain what's the app and the front end of the app. Can you guys see? I'm sharing my screen here.
Yep.
I'm seeing your
Okay.
your YouTube screen. Okay, now I can see. Let me add it.
So that's the app, the Checkout UI custom, and why we developed this app. The checkout is really great out for some people to customize and do their own chains. It's also utilizing VTEX for like 7-8 years. That's a long time. And when you are putting custom codes, CSS or JS, you are welcome with this warm message that's any damage, this makeout that's not VTEX fault. And so it turns to be a great area for many people, and some people are afraid to customize, some people are afraid to add any support. So the Checkout UI custom brings you a lot of features as payments, chains, as accordion or tabs. It's just a toggle options. So you can change the shipping times that shows as business days. You can show as dates as well. And you have a lot of different options that you can just toggle or customize. It's dragging options, and you can see the change here as well. We have the option to change the colors. We have the options to add custom JavaScript and CSS. And you also have a history tab, so you can load settings of your paths or different workspace. And that's a really powerful app. So once you install the app, you have by default this view without any change. So you can see you have a lot of different things simply starting the app and like modding the app. What is really common to questions is how to customize the Checkout UI custom. Because it's not easy. If you want to do any custom change, you have to go to the CSS tab, activate here, and put your change and publish. And then you have to go back here and refresh the page to see that happening. So our way, as we're talking developer here, our way to do change here, you can create a workspace. That's another powerful thing of the app. You can create a workspace, and you can change the checkout using the workspace and see what's up. So for example, I'm here in the account sandbox was that, and the workspace Vysk Office. I can link the app. I'm the Checkout UI custom app. I can link the app here, and here I'm the another folder. Inside the folder Checkout UI custom, inside of the app Checkout UI custom, I have to run npm, could be like node as well, run watch. So that I'm seeing all the changes I'm doing inside the folder of the size file. So that's all my files. I have another file here called custom CSS. I can make an example. Once I change here, I will see the file change here on the watch, and it's building the end file here as well, and send for my workspace. So when I refresh the page, I have to refresh the page. I can see my chains here. So again, that's really powerful. But what you are supposed to do afterwards is go back to your file, select everything, copy, and paste on the checkout on CSS tab on the admin, and publish that. And remember that after you publish for the first time in your app in the admin, you are not able to see your chains on the front end anymore. It's just works for linked apps. And also a powerful thing that's when they're going to explain further, and you can have multiple apps injecting CSS in the checkout. So here for this account, for example, we have one app here injecting codes, and you have the checkouts by custom injecting code as well. That's really powerful since you can have multiple apps doing different things in the checkout. That's also really dangerous as well, so all you guys know. So be careful. And when they're going to explain now the further things you can do on the back end.
Okay, right. Let me show you something here. First, I think I have a disclaimer. We know that a few are installing this app, forking this app in order to make changes to the checkout without using the checkout interface, the checkout UI custom interface. This is one that Lucas just showed to you guys. But if you need to make changes to the checkout, then you don't want to rely on this app. You should not fork this app. There is another way to do this, and I think that when these agencies are forking this app, they are doing a huge effort to only make use of this checkout UI custom builder. Those are two different things. This is we use the name checkout UI custom for this app, but by a coincidence, there was a builder called checkout UI custom, and for that, you can do like let's just clear my screen here. You can use like VTEX init, and then you have these.
We don't see your screen, Wender, by the way.
Oh.
I don't think.
Oh, I thought that I was sharing my screen. Sorry. Share screen. Here we go. Okay. Okay, now can you see now?
It's probably loading, but once it's there, I'll put it on screen.
Okay.
I don't see it yet. Are you clicking on the share button on screen here?
Yeah, I did. Share screen. Entire screen.
Technical difficulties, that happens sometimes, folks. Don't worry about it.
I think by default, what we're trying to say, don't fork apps, guys. Don't fork apps.
No, it's basically. Well, it's supposed to be. There's not so hard to share a screen. That's probably
there's probably like some permission error or something on Chrome. Wonder.
Yeah.
But if you want, you can share the link with me on our private chat, and I can probably show that on screen.
I'll share that. So what there, guys?
Okay. So
yeah, this is the repo.
I'm adding it here just right now.
I'll try to guide you on the explanation.
Yeah, there you go. Let's do it.
Okay, so you see that this repo, this is the checkout UI custom app, that interface that Lucas showed to you guys. So you see that we have all these components. But if you don't want to use this, and then you just want to install an app to customize the checkout, but without using this, what you need to do is you have to run the VTEX init command, and then you choose checkout settings. option. You have a template for that.
So let me try to do it live. How about that?
Yeah.
So you said something like, let me get out of this, clear.
Yeah.
So VTEX init.
Yeah, just hit enter.
Right. Let me just make a little bit.
Yeah, that's
better.
Look good.
VTEX init, check out UI custom. Is that what
No. Just VTEX init.
And then choose.
Enter. Choose one of the options that we have as a template. It's called checkout settings. Oh, did you?
You should fill the form, man.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm not gonna fill it live, guys. Come on. But yeah, you're saying
check out UI
this
settings.
One, right?
Yeah, this one. When you do this, you have like the initial setup to build your own app that will customize the checkout. Okay. So if you now you're cloning this, yeah, you can go over. Check out UI settings. Do you have like a Visual Studio Code? Just like code dot and then space.
I was gonna do VI, but you know we can do VS Code. No, just kidding. Yeah, but then check out UI settings. What is that, Wender?
Yeah, like... this is actually what you see inside. Go to manifest, please. First, manifest. Manifest, you see that we have this builder called checkout UI custom. You see, this is another thing. This is a builder. This is what let you to customize the checkout. This is another part. So what these agencies, what they are doing, they are installing our app, that interface app, to do this, and it is not appropriate. So what they do is they now have to change like this. Inside this checkout UI folder, you have the files like JavaScript, CSS files that you see at the checkout. So you can just customize these files and install your app to the inventory and to your account, and that's it. So you don't need to use the VTEX UI interface, the checkout UI interface.
Okay. Let me see if I understood it, Wender. So if they want to do more than what checkout UI custom allows you through toggles and through direct scripts that are inserted there, people are usually trying to just expand, like fork and create a new app from checkout UI custom. Instead, they could have checkout UI custom and then an app that's built using the checkout UI custom builder that would kind of like inject those options. Or how
correct.
Can someone add toggles, for instance, or something like that?
No, they can. This is remember that we have in the past that
the portal.
That portal that you can customize your CSS and JavaScript. This is the same thing, but it is an app. So this will be merged together. So you can have the checkout UI custom interface app, that one that we have with the toggles, and you can have your own custom app. Those will work together. So you don't have to choose one or another. You can have both, but you can have your own script in a separate app installed to your page. So when you see the, let's say that you are in the checkout, and then you want to see how your JavaScript file looks like. If you look at the code, you see that we have a comment with the name of the app that injected that code. So we can have multiple apps doing the same thing to the checkout. So of course, this is dangerous, not recommended. But if you need for some reason, do this, you can have both apps installed.
So that's what Lucas was showing us, right? That some snippets were being inserted by different apps.
Yeah, correct. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share my screen. I don't know why. It's probably some permission. I thought that
if you want, you can try refreshing StreamYard. We'll wait. Don't worry about it.
Okay, maybe.
I'll keep talking with Lucas while we're doing it. We still have a couple minutes for this demo. So Lucas, do you have anything you want to? I'll add Alex as well to the conversation. Hey, Alex.
Yeah, just to fill up the 3 spaces. All right. I actually have a question. So I think Wender was saying that you can have customization through the checkout UI custom app and your own kind of app that would do it. But which one would take precedence? Would it?
Yeah,
would it
that's
be
a
the
good
checkout UI
question.
custom?
That's a good question, really good question. So that what many people are facing right now, and as I saw you when you link, the CSS and everything else is called afterwards the checkout UI custom. So if you want to take the precedence and you take priority of your code, you have to do the priority of the code. I mean, body class, that's one thing, but body class plus everything else, that's more priority. So I have to know all these things before making any customization, because the checkout UI custom also will take a lot. You overwrite a lot of things of the checkout default. So you are filling a lot of checkouts like the checkouts default. You are filling up a lot of flaws, like the responsive flaws or the assembly options. You don't have that on the default checkout. That's all included in the checkout UI custom. You are doing that, doing a lot of requests, and make a lot of priorities of the code. So if you can show my screen here again.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, you can show my screen again. All these options here on the style, the config file, they're all in the admin as well. Are the same options you can see here, the same options. So the colors, all the colors are here. The gray colors are here as well. They are all here as well. So everything here is placed and built on the final file. And then go here on the final file, we have this global CSS mutations, and you are overwriting a lot of things, really a lot of things of the checkout default. We have actually this file overwriting. So the button files, the default buttons files are replaced to be everything a patterns, and a default patterns you can have it here as well. You are inside here. So anything here, everything here, they have a logic behind. So we have the payment step, the card flags, they have labels and mutations for everything that you have in the checkout to make sure that everything is following the same pattern. So the example here, the SVG files, they have actually the same pattern to change the primary color of the style, that is this one. So everything is to have the same pattern in file, and you have to avoid you to put importance on the file, CSS file over and over again in different lines. So that is to make people life easier when they are customers there.
One question. So, like, are these things synchronized? Like, are you like downloading the settings to your local code environment, and can you like sync that back in, or like how does that code correlate to the admin, the stuff that you see in the admin?
So, okay, that's a good question as well. So I have this file, that's the default file, the style CSS, but I have this app.scss, that's the final code built. And what it does, it only has the variables here. And what the backend does, what Wender was going to show, it's replace the variables, these variables, for the variables side here.
Oh, okay.
So I have this by default because it comes from here. It comes from here and from here as well. From one sec. Yeah, somewhere here that Wender is going to show, it comes from here as well. That's the default settings of that. So once you change here, you can change by a drop color, you can change by the X decimal codes as well. And after you change here, you're gonna replace it and show here as well. So that's the green here, and the darker green are the bold color here, SUSEs and SUSEs darkers.
Very nice. Okay, so I think you guys have like 2 minutes to wrap up. Any last words you want to give to our audience?
Yeah, regarding that fork issue that I mentioned, if you fork this your app, the checkout by custom app, you'll not be able to actually install and use it. So it's like an unforkable app. So you cannot rely on the same interface that we have there. We even have a condition on inside another app that is a dependency to allow specifically for the checkout UI custom app to place files into the checkout flow. So you'll not be able to use that interface. So again, just reinforcing that. Do not fork this app.
Don't fork apps, guys. Don't
If you
fork
want to
apps.
use the checkout UI custom builder, we have a builder on for that. So that's it. Sorry guys for not being able to share. I really don't know what happened. Maybe I have to restart.
No, don't worry.
Restart, but
later we can post like a longer demo on the channel, like off the side if you want. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lucas and Wender, for the demo and for the clarifications. If people want to know more about this, where can they look for it?
GitHub, guys. You have the search of the issues and questions in GitHub. Please do everything here. You have the entire US first-party app teams looking for that.
Yeah. By the way, our apps are all public. So if you need to miss something on the app, you can contribute. So feel free to make a PR and then we can merge that. Thank you, guys.
Good stuff. Perfect. Thank you very much for your demo. All right. Cool. Next up, we have Michael, who's going to talk about the impex CLI.
Hey, thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.
Hey, Michael. The floor is yours.
Okay. Let me give a little background and then I'll share the screen. But one of the things, I've been here at VTEX for about a year. I've spent about 20 years in e-commerce implementing different platforms. And one of the things I noticed at VTEX, at least when I came, and some of the projects we had done where we had customers with a large amount of data, was we just didn't have always a consistent sort of go-to to load data into VTEX. We built through Wender's help and the first-party apps team a Google Docs spreadsheet that's used to do imports and updates. But I think there's some limits in terms of how many products you can put in that. And we had some projects last year where we had close to, 100,000 SKUs, lots of prices and different large volumes of data that needed to be loaded initially into the project. So again, just past experience with some other platforms, there was always a way to import data through a command line utility to batch load, and whether that was for the initial load or sometimes they were used even in an ongoing basis. So it was kind of funny. I sat down really around Christmas time and I just said, I need to learn more about VTEX and the APIs and how they work. And I just started taking some old files that I had from a past project about 10 years ago. And I said, I'm going to figure out how to load them into VTEX. And I went down the path of starting to build this program, and it just sort of evolved from there. And I had fun doing it. So what I was going to show you guys today was a project I put out on GitHub that kind of walks through the loading of a catalog. And hopefully, this is what I would call definitely alpha beta kind of code, but get some feedback from the community and hopefully some contributors that be willing to work with a group on it. So jumping in, so out on VTEX and my own personal GitHub project, there is a project called VTEX CLI Utils. And there's really about 3 things in it, and I'll kind of walk you through it. Impex, which stands for import export. And I will tell you today, it is just an import utility. My goal in the future is it allows us to export data out of VTEX because another requirement that our customers ask for is how can I get my data out of one environment in VTEX and into another. But the impex utility is the primary one I'm going to show you today. There is a utility out here for building an Algolia index, which is a third-party search engine. Again, it's somewhat experimental. I played around with it again, trying to just learn about the APIs and extract the data. And then the last piece, this is really just a library. It's a set of structs and other things that match the VTEX APIs. It's also a set of functions that can be used to get things like the category tree, to look up IDs for specifications. And it's used by both these projects. So if we jump into the impex section, there's a very long kind of README in here that sort of walks through it. Now, some of you are probably wondering, like, what language was this built in? And I actually used a language called Rust. It's a little similar to what I would say kind of C++. Now, part of the reason I did that was that, again, one of the things that had been brought up along the way of kind of last year and learning about some of these projects was that, our SIs were writing a lot of these imports themselves or trying to script it inside of Postman. And there are rate limits on some of the APIs at VTEX. They're not rate limits on others. How could we make it fast? And Rust is a language that's really geared towards performance, reliability, and productivity. I won't read off all the pieces on here, but there really is no runtime or garbage collector at the end of the day. They compile a lot of code. There's a lot of type checking, and there really is a lot of memory safe kind of management and thread safety. So that's part of the reason I use this, and it was a fun project for me to kind of dive into the language. And as I said, a lot of things that it's used for to build command line utilities, like in the Linux world. It's used for databases, etc. So that's a little bit about the language. You can check it out. In terms of kind of how this works, again, I wanted to have a standard set of, call it, layouts for the CSV files that we could give to customers and say, okay, if you got a lot of data to load, here's how you need to give us the data. And so in that, what I basically did is come up with a set, and I'm just going to scroll down here to have a set of CSV formats. And there's a data folder in the project with this sample data, so you can actually walk through it and kind of see each one of these. But if you provide these following file formats, and I'll kind of walk you through them in a minute, for categories, product SKUs, the spec groups, the assignments for the product specifications, prices, and inventory, the utility will actually generate other files for you based on the identifiers that have been created along the way. So as an example, out of those, call it, I think, 9 files, we can build a brand file, a product specifications file, one that does the product spec associations. It will do SKU specs, the spec values, the SKU specification associations, and finally create the SKU files, which helps you load the images. And so to give you kind of a look at what those look like, let me flip over and show you. So this is an example of the category file. And if you look at the headers in the CSV file, you will see that many of them match the category API that we have at VTEX. There's a couple of things, though, that I added. One was a unique identifier field for the category. So instead of just relying on the name being unique, because sometimes a name can repeat itself in the tree, you can create a non-numeric identifier. If you know the ID, you can populate it. The VTEX API will take it. The same thing was true for this parent unique identifier. Again, you'll see that for men, the next category underneath is men's apparel. It refers to its parent, which is 1-0-0. So these IDs will carry themselves through the other files. So if you look at like products, same thing here, you'll see the category unique identifier. So when you build these files initially with the customer, you don't have to know ahead of time what is the VTEX category ID as an example. And we tend to leverage the ref ID through the rest of the files along the way. We also included the brand name in here. So that's how we can generate the brand file at the end of the day. And if you look at SKUs, again, it's referring to the product ref ID. It has no idea in this file what the particular product ID is. At the end of the day, you'll also see I added like an image URL, so you can tell the customer, provide us an image for each one of those SKUs. Now it's just one image. If you need a more, I don't know, call it flexible interface where you need to add multiple images, you can do that as well. But it goes on down the list. So for product specs at the product level, you can create basically a name value pair, size chart, the value of that, which would be a URL as an example, and it has all the other standard VTEX pieces. From this, the program will actually look through this, look at who the parent category is from the product file, and it will generate like the product specs. So again, kind of moving down along the way, SKU specs, for example, have a set of allowed values. So if you have a product, again, using the ref, the specification being color, you can list out what all the allowed values are. And you'll see if you look down this file further, there'll be things like size, you know, other attributes that are in there. And finally, as you kind of keep going across, this is actually what I call the assignments file. So it shows the actual SKU, the color, and what value is actually being set. And I think moving down towards the end, the last one, in the logic that was kind of built, specification groups, at least as I've talked to, you know, many of the people that have worked with VTEX for years, they said this is not used as much. And so the program really just assumes that there's one specification group, which is default spec group. And finally, there's a price file, again, based off the SKU ref ID. And there's an inventory file that is based off the ref ID. And so really from those formats, as I said, the program can load the data and then generate it. Now, if you kind of walk through the README, there's some examples that kind of show how to set this up. And so you can download the utility. Let me back up and just show you real quick. So over here, there's one release. As I said, it's pretty alpha. And there's a GitHub action that will generate one for Linux, one for Mac OS on the Intel platform, one for Windows. And then I actually have to upload the one for the Mac Apple Silicon at the end of the day. But you can download that and then follow the instructions to basically set it up. So let me go back into the impex real quick and just show you a few things. There is a .env file you need to create. And in that file, you need to put your account name, your environment, and the two VTEX API, the app key and the app token. You can call the utility with a --help. It will show you essentially what the different subcommands are. So you'll see it walks you through brand, the category, the inventory, the price, the product, and each subcommand has its own help. And so put in the VTEX impex, the specification, right? And then you'll see what the options are. Most commands take an action, which right now is usually import or something like gen product spec file, gen SKU spec file. There are a couple things that are kind of neat where you can add a concurrency flag. So again, depending on your hardware, and like I said at the beginning, to try to speed up some of these big volume imports, it will use concurrency or kind of thread-like kind of environment to speed it up. And I'll show you kind of how that works. And then if there are any other optional flags like the product file, the product spec file, it will tell you what the parameters are and how to set those. So again, walked you through the CSV formats, talked to you about what will get generated. And then there's a whole example on how to load the data. And so you can put this into a folder and then start from there. And so you'll see there's a list of the different steps. And this really does kind of follow, you know, I would call it the methodology of creating it, starting with the category, the brands, the spec group, etc. But this will walk you through in a step-by-step basis and also explain the format and then how to run it. So I will jump over real quick and then show you guys a little bit about what this looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is just call rust log or set that environment variable and set it to info. You can do info or debug. And then in this folder, I have downloaded the utility, right? And so I can call help. And again, you'll see the information come out. Now, you know, one of the ones I figured I'd start with first, since I've got data in my VTEX environment already, is we'll do inventory. And again, if I do help, right, you'll see a list of information about this particular command and the actions that you can take on it. Let me pull my screen up a little bit. So for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and do the action of import. And then I'm going to pick the file that's got my inventory data in it. And then I'm going to use this concurrency flag, and I'm just going to set it to 1 and kick it off. And so what you'll see is that it starts spitting out some information. It's kind of telling you what it's doing, but what it's doing, because the inventory file has no identifiers for any of the products, it's using the ref ID. It goes out and queries all the SKU IDs in VTEX, and then it gets those and it goes and looks up their item record to get the SKU. And now it starts actually doing the loading. And so you'll see the ID that's created, you'll see the response that comes back. And so you kind of monitor it to see if there's an error. And right now the program, it doesn't stop if it gets an error. So you do need to kind of watch it or pipe the output to a file. But as an example here, I'm going to go ahead and kill it so you guys can see if I were to up this and change the concurrency to 12, it's still going to go out and get the item records and build that kind of lookup table at the beginning. But now it's going to really kick in, and it should go a lot faster. And in my experience with the VTEX APIs, some sort of honor a rate limit and some don't. So an example, you can see now it really trucks across the screen. You can really get the throughput up. And I think this will finish in about, I don't know, 40 seconds or so. But this is doing about 3,200 records in total in terms of an inventory update. And again, I think for things like pricing and inventory, this utility could be useful. Again, if somebody didn't have a direct API integration, they could output, you know, the inventory data or the pricing data in a CSV format and just schedule and run this program, you know, on a server at AWS or somewhere else in their internal environment at the end of the day. So that's an example there. I did want to kind of show you just an example of also how you can gen the file as an example for like brand. So if I go over, we're going to skip the category import. But as I mentioned, brand is one where it will look at the product file and come up with a brand file you need to load. So there's an example of this in here where I can call VTEX impex brand, gen the brand file, pass it where I want it to produce, and output it. So I'm going to copy this for now and come back to my terminal window. And let me just list the files in this directory so you can see what I have. So right now I've got my program, the .env file, which has my account information and the data folder. So let's paste this in here. Whoops. I think I went too far. Let me paste it twice. Let me do it once more. Okay, so what this is going to do, it's going to call on the brand object. It's going to gen the brand file, and it's going to look at the product file to do it. So we'll kick it out. And you can see it's really quick. It just wrote basically 60 brands. And you can go out and take a look at it. And we'll just cap the file for the sake of time because I know we may be getting short. But it's produced this file. And so now with this file, you can basically turn around and run the load for it. So if I were to go back to this and I wanted to kick it off, the actual import doesn't need anything other than just the action being import. And then you can kick in the brands. Now, I already have an environment today out here that has data loaded in it and it has a set of brands. So what I have found really helpful, and most of you are probably familiar with this, there is this full site cleanup. So you can go out and, you know, blow away the data and keep trying the program over and over again and test it. But at this point, like I said, I've got data up there. So I know that's quite a bit. I think I'm probably getting close on time. Let me stop for a minute and I guess ask Alex or anybody, you know, just kind of general questions or things they'd like to ask about the utility overall.
Right, cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I quite like that. And I got the impression there when you were loading up the inventory that you stopped the execution the first time around and then you ran it again. Does that mean that, is that something you can run over and over again and you would just update what hasn't been saved before? Or do you have to go and do the full cleanup before you run again? Just
That's
to
correct.
clarify that.
That's correct. It's just doing, it's calling the put request. So it's an update or an insert, depending on what it is.
Perfect.
Not all of them behave that way yet. So like the category one,
that's what I was going to ask.
The category one doesn't. The category one assumes that it doesn't exist, and I believe it will just create a new category if even if one exists with a similar name. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, you did mention that it was alpha. It was quite impressive, I think, for the amount of stuff that it's doing. So yeah, it looks pretty good. I have a curiosity. Is there any customers or people lined up to use this or trying this out already? And if people want to try it out, what should be the process?
Yeah, so we have a project right now that we're kind of, it's one of those projects that's gone on for too long. We're having some issues kind of getting it resolved with the SI. And so we're stepping in. So it's going to get used there. And I think there'll be other opportunities to use it as well. I would love for feedback. And so if anybody wants to, leverage it, have questions on it, please reach out to me. We can provide my email address. Obviously, if you're at VTEX, you can reach me on Slack and, take a look at the project out there too. And open issues, in GitHub, ask questions. I would really value the input at this point.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's very impressive. Thanks a lot for sharing and for doing the demo, Michael.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alex.
All right. Okay, so next up, we invite back Henrique to do a demo on the payment app. Henrique, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. So, thanks. I had the announcement earlier, and now I want to share my screen to talk in more detail about the payment app. Here we have the documentation of the payment app, which is an IO app that you can use to make custom experiences for payments. So first, I will assume that you already have your payment conditions already set and working properly, and then you can add this UI element to make this custom experience in the checkout. In terms of programming, I will show it with more detail. You'll see that the payment app is defined as a class that extends from React's component, and you have those usage cases that is to implement a payment method. You can have the whole payment experience inside the payment app window, and you can use it to add a security layer. You can make an authentication through the payment app using the 3D security tool. So in this GIF here, you can see how it works. You are trying to make a purchase. You are in the payment step. When you click and the buy button, the payment will show up in this modal window right here in the center of your screen, and the developer can choose whatever they want to show inside the payment app. So what changes for the payment flow? So there's a lot in the flow that will not change. So the customer reaches the checkout and wants to finish the purchase, and will the customer will choose the payment method that he wants to use to pay, and then it will click on the buy button. And what will happen is that it will do the standard flow, that's create a new transaction and then create a new transaction in the payment, and this will work here with the gateway, but only at this point that will start to change. That's when the gateway will start to communicate with the connector, starting with this create payment request. So what happens is that the connector will decide or will receive a response to make a decision, and in the response of this request, that's for the create payment request, it will contain a specific field that's this one, the payment app data field. This field will be an object with other two properties. The first one is the app name, that is the name of the payment app that you want to open in the checkout for this process, for this specific payment. And the second one is the payload that will contain information that the payment app can use for its processing. So in an example here, in Brazil, we have this payment method that's called Pix. And to pay with Pix, you use a QR code. You scan a QR code, for example, with your phone, and then you make the payment. So you can have in the payload, for instance, a link to this image of the QR code, and you can insert this link inside the payload. That's included in the response of this create payment request. And then, so all of this will be sent back and responded to the checkout. And once the checkout identifies that response with this field, it will open it will know which payment app will has to be opened, and then this payment app will open here. And when it opens, it will require an interaction of the customer, and once it finishes, the transaction, the purchase will be concluded, and it will give it the result. If everything is okay, if it is successful, the customer will be taken to the order placed screen, or if something goes wrong, it will go back to the checkout and give an alert, and the customer can once more choose a payment method to conclude the purchase. So that's it for the flow. So how do we implement a payment app? So those are the minimal steps that you have to take to at least make your payment app show up in the checkout of your store. So assuming that your payment integration is already working, you already have everything set up, you already configured your connector, it is installed and configured with your payment method, and it's already showing up in the checkout. So we'll start here to add the payment app to show in the checkout for this payment method that is configured. So what you need to do is, since we are working with a IO app, you have to set up your development environment for VTEX IO, and you have the instructions here. And then you have to clone or download this GitHub repository. That's right here. So you have this code in this repo, and you have to make some changes for it to work. The main change that you have to make is you have to go into the manifest.json file right here. And remember that I said that the gateway responds that create transaction request with the app name field. So the checkout will identify which is the app that it has to open. So you have to define the name of your app with the same name of that field on the response. So you have to change this name right here. You have to change this example payment of app inside those quotes, and this has to be the exact same name that is on that app name field. And as you can see here on the builders, it will use React and the pages builder to show up and you can implement those UI elements inside the window of the payment app. And the other change that you have to make is that you also have to define the name inside this page folder page.json file. So if we come here in the REPL into the pages folder page.json file, you also have to set that exact same name that you set up in the manifest right here in this pages.json file. So once you have this configured in your local environment, you can just use VTEX link. You can just link your app with your store or the environment that you want to test, and then you can go to the checkout, try to make a purchase, and your payment app should open as expected. So this is the minimal things that you have to do just to open the your payment app and to make the test. So once you have this done, you can also operate with your payment app. There are some specific pieces in the code where you can control the behavior of your payment app. And we have 3 sections here. The first one is this handling the order payload. So I talked before about the response of the connector in that create payment request. So it returns the payload. So this is how you can access that payload inside the payment app. So what you want to do is go to this React folder and this index.js file. So the core code of the payment app will be here. As you can see, it's a class that extends from React's component, and we have all the logic here. And in the end, you can see how the payment type will be rendered. We have the tags of JSX code here with divs and buttons, and so you can choose how what will be the appearance of your payment type here. So we want to work with the payload. So what we have to do here is we have the props of the class, and in one of the props is the app payload. So this payload will be the exact same payload that will be returned from the connector. So you can access here, and if I take a look here in the boilerplate, the REPL payload, you can see it here. So it will, in the example of this REPL, it is used in those 3 sections. So this code has 3. It's used in those 3 instances, and it has a flows where it can choose to confirm or cancel the transaction, and it uses the payload here into this variable, and it has links URLs to approve or to deny the payment. So it is made to control the flow of the purchase. The second thing that you can do is understand the response of the checkout UI. What happens here is that there will be a point where you will have to finish the operation with the payment app. So once the payment app reaches that point, the payment app has to inform to the checkout that it needs to be closed because it ended whatever it had to do. So the way to do this is through this event transaction validation.vtex. So the payment app has to trigger this event. And in the example here, it is inside this function respond transaction. So as we can see here, transaction. We have this function here, and this function is called onto those three functions. So what happens in this code is that it reaches the point where it decided if whatever it is the solution of the payment, so if it is approved or denied, and once that is decided, it says that it's already finished and you can close the payment app. So the function is called and this event is triggered, and then the checkout will close the payment app. And the third one in here is injecting external scripts. So one way of inserting the elements inside the window of the payment app is through coding, explicit coding here, like using those JSX tags. And the other way is to insert external scripts. So this piece of code here shows how this is done. You get this from the document using the get elements by tag name head 0, and it's applied here on this variable head, and then it builds another element inside this JS variable. So it will append a child to the head to append this JS variable, and this JS will contain the script that we want to inject. So how this is used on this repo? So there is inject. So what happens here is that there is this function called inject script, and it will receive some arguments, and this function is used here. And what it's doing is that it will inject a Google reCAPTCHA inside the payment app. So a Google reCAPTCHA can be injected, and it will be rendered inside of the payment app of part of the content in there. So those are the three things that you can do with your payment app. And in the end here, we have the scenarios. That's how for what you can use your payment app. So the first one is that the payment, for the payment, you can do like the whole purchase flow inside the payment app. You have an option in the checkout where you can you just choose that payment method, and then the payment app window opens, and you can have the whole payment experience inside the payment app. You can have other payment options. You can have like fields to fill, like with credit card. So the payment developer can choose how this experience will be. And the second one is to make this authentication step with 3D Secure tool. So you can choose just credit card, for instance, in the checkout, and it will the card issuer will make a risk analysis, and it will decide if it is a high or low risk purchase. If it's a low risk, it will just be approved. But if it decides it's a high risk, there will be an authentication step that the buyer will have to perform. So here we have an example of a payment app showing this strong authentication step with the payment app. So for this specific 3D S2 app, the buyer will have to go to his bank app, and from there he will have to authenticate the purchase, and then that will receive a response, and then it will close, and then the purchase will be authorized. So this 3D secret tool is a protocol that that's made to attend a regulation in Europe that is this revised payment service direct tool. So there are in Europe it seems to be pretty used a lot for those authentications and make purchase more secure. And with the payment app is the way that we have here to implement this on the checkout of VTEX stores. And that's it. I hope this can help our partners and payment developers to implement those payment experiences. Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, Henrique. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, especially this last bit where you gave the examples of where this can be useful, and I certainly see that being used by a lot of payment methods to make sure that we check for frauds or that kind of thing, and make sure that we give more safety and peace of mind to the final customers. If people want to know more about this, I think you're looking through the documentation there, and then the GitHub example app. Is there anywhere where people could know more about this?
Oh, sure. Oh, first there is the link of this documentation that's on our developer portal, and second, we have this link of the boilerplate that's here. This VTEX apps example payment authorization app. Where you can check the code there, you can download it and start working with it and implement your own payment app.
Good stuff. And if people have any questions, make sure to check out the VTEX community or ask them through there, and then we'll be happy to answer them there. Right. Thank you very much, Henrique, for your help and contribution and demo again. And I think we'll wrap up now.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, if you want to have your demo featured here in this space, you can just go and fill this form and submit a proposal, and then we'll get in touch with you to arrange all the details for you to present your demo here. So make sure to submit a request if that's something you'd like to do. And I think that wraps us up. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and the people who presented demos. We'll be with you again in a month's time. So until then, see you later.